Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Saturday, August 30th. Over the next few days, we will continue to see warmer and drier conditions across the Great Basin. There still are a few isolated chances for lightning up in the north and in the higher terrain of Utah and the Sierra over the next couple of days, but mostly buildups, and there could just be a few strikes with no significant precipitation. Otherwise, temperatures will continue to warm to near to above normal across the Great Basin with decreasing humidity. Over the last 24 hours, we did have widely scattered to scattered thunderstorms over central and northern areas of the Great Basin. These thunderstorms produced some light precipitation, but also some heavier amounts in parts of eastern Nevada and northeast Nevada, where there were a few amounts above a quarter or a half inch. But also, even though there was no lightning over parts of southern Utah, we did have remnant moisture from Tropical Storm Juliet, which did produce some heavier wetting rains over a quarter of an inch down south as well. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen 9 fires for 2 acres and just over 1,500 acres of large fire growth. Over the last 7 to 14 days, continue to see, obviously, the above normal precipitation, well above normal with this last push of monsoon moisture across the region. There were some drier spots, however, over parts of southern and southeast Utah that didn't see quite as much precipitation. The ERC percentile point map reflects our current conditions very well with this most recent moisture, with all areas below the 50th percentile. But ERCs will continue to rise along with dropping fuel moistures over the next several days as we see warmer and drier conditions, but likely not returning to the very high levels we saw prior to the most recent moisture. Looking at some of our graphs for 100 and 1,000-hour fuel moisture to see how these have been affected as well. Up in western Wyoming, 1,000-hour fuel moistures have risen significantly to above normal, but not quite as high above normal as we've seen in some of the 100-hour or 10-hour fuels. So we will see those fuel moistures start to drop back down. And then 100-hour fuel moistures across the basin also have significantly risen well above normal in all areas. But as you can see from the forecast line, will quickly be trending back down to near normal within the next 5 to 7 days in some areas that won't receive additional moisture. Looking at our satellite image from this morning, ridging across the region with generally clear skies in all areas. There is an area of low pressure off the west coast. This may send some upper to mid-level moisture across Oregon, which could trigger a few thunderstorms in central Idaho today, but anything would be very isolated. We will have smoke impacts from our neighbors to the west in California and the Pacific Northwest with all of their ongoing fires that will push eastward into the Great Basin, especially up north and in parts of western areas. Looking at our weather pattern for today, that ridge is in place, again with drier conditions, but still some lingering moisture for very isolated thunderstorms. Our significant fire potential is generally low in all areas, but we will see gradual drying from west to east. No concerns with winds today. There will be some breezy winds in eastern Idaho, western Wyoming, down into the northern Utah mountains, which will generally be in the 15 to 20 mile per hour range. Otherwise, the only activity would be if we saw any buildups or weak thunderstorms could push out a brief outflow wind. Otherwise, relative humidity continues to drop into the teens across western areas of the Great Basin and still near 20% over northern and eastern areas. Temperatures today will continue to rise to near normal across the region. And again, you can see the probability of precipitation, possibly some buildups, maybe a few isolated strikes in the higher terrain. As we move into Sunday, the ridge continues to amplify across the Great Basin with continued warming and drying conditions. Winds will generally be light in all areas, and relative humidity drops into the teens across many areas of the Great Basin. The only areas remaining near 20% would be western Wyoming into parts of central and eastern Idaho. Temperatures rise further, especially over western and northern areas, where they'll be anywhere from 3 to 6 degrees above normal. Probability of precipitation, again, we're seeing generally dry conditions, so even less chance for any of those buildups or thunderstorms tomorrow. As we move into Monday, very similar continued conditions with warming and drying. You can see the significant fire potential, a lot more areas in the yellow, but still relatively low risk with the recent moisture, but the drying trend continues. No issues with winds on Monday, and relative humidity, again, remains mostly in the teens region-wide except for parts of the north. Temperatures continue to climb another degree or two, especially up north, and very limited potential for any thunderstorm activity. And you can see from the 3-day precipitation, again, aside from maybe those spotty thunderstorms that potentially pop up, really no precipitation for the Great Basin. As we move into next week, a little bit towards Tuesday, Wednesday, conditions will start to change. We are expecting another return of some moisture from the south, but as far as timing and overall aerial coverage, still somewhat low confidence. But right now it's looking like it will start initially focusing over the western portion of the Great Basin. So we'll start to see that moisture move into Nevada initially, and then by midweek trend a little bit further north and east, but really still focused over the western half of the region. And you can see that decreasing fire potential as that moisture moves into southern areas. But again, a lot of details still remain to be seen with where this moisture goes and how quickly it spreads north. But we are expecting an increase in thunderstorm activity, especially in that Tuesday through Friday time period and probably beyond that. So at least expect an increase in initial attack across the region. And then we'll see how dry the fuels get. There still is always the potential for some of those fires to go larger, but right now it's looking like an increase in initial attack. 7-day total precip, you can see that return of moisture coming next week in the western half of the Great Basin, so we'll see how that materializes. And then the 8 to 14-day outlook taking us through September 12th shows generally warmer conditions over the western half of the region. Still could see some of that above normal precipitation as that moisture again trends from the south to the north, and we also could see some northern systems affecting Idaho. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.